I'm Kenneth Moten for ABC News Live. We are going to stay on top of that breaking news out of Toronto, but we want to switch now to the latest in Nashville, Tennessee, to that breaking news of a capture in the deadly mass shooting at that Waffle House. Our ABC's Ariel Reshef is on the ground there in Nashville. You've got an update, Ariel?
That's right, Kenneth. 29-year-old Travis Reinking is now in custody, police custody. We just spoke with witnesses who watched this capture take place. He was taken into custody just behind his apartment complex. Now, that was the last place he was actually spotted yesterday. We just spoke to the woman who called into police yesterday morning to tell them that she saw this man running through the back part of their apartment complex without a shirt on. Now it turns out that he must have been located somewhere in the wooded area behind the complex where he lived. So Travis Reinking now in custody behind the complex where he lived and where he went back to after that deadly mass shooting.
Suspected he was in that area, ran to that area after the shooting, after he suspected of killing 4 people, injuring others at that Waffle House. They thought he was in that area. It seems like they put a net around it and they were able to close in and find him.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like, Kenneth. It's a heavily wooded area that's right behind this apartment complex. As you can imagine, there was a lot of interest and intrigue, so we saw a lot of the residents coming out of their apartment trying to see what all the fuss was about. There were dozens of police cars and helicopters up in the sky. Clearly, this massive manhunt now coming to an end as a result of a major collaboration between a lot of different agencies, state, local, federal officials, more than 160 law enforcement officers combing this scene for the last 24 hours, combing this area, this small radius. So they had reason to believe that Travis Reinking remained in this area, and they were right.
It's been expected to give another update in any moment now. We're going to carry that on ABC News Live as well. But Ariel, before I let you go, I know you got to get to work for World News Tonight, but I'm curious about just a sense of a sigh of relief, I'm sure. You said you spoke to one of the residents there. People have to be relieved that this man has been taken into custody.
That's right. A lot of these residents say they were basically sleeping with one eye open, and anytime their garage door would open, they would jolt. And so this is a huge sigh of relief for a lot of people in this community. That mother that I just spoke to on camera, we'll have her on World News Tonight likely. She's standing with her infant, her newborn child, and she said she was the one that spotted Travis Reinking yesterday after she put 2 and 2 together very quickly that this must be the man that police have been looking for in this deadly mass shooting. And now today, finding out that he was captured just feet from where she lives was not only a sigh of relief, but she said slightly unsettling. But knowing that police had been in the area and had been combing the area gave her a little bit of relief.
All right, Ariel Reshef on the ground there early yesterday, just hours after that shooting. We've been following every development there. If we see those images come in. Ariel, thank you for your reporting. Let's show that image one more time of the suspect who was taken into custody, Travis Reinking. In the back of that patrol car, you can see his clothes are tattered. He's got that scratch on his right shoulder there. Metro Nashville police released this image shortly after the capture. That community just on edge, on high alert, as police really searched for him. They believe that he was armed and dangerous, possibly had 2 weapons on him after they say that he walked up to that Waffle House in the early morning hours, and that they say that he was able to use an assault rifle to open fire, killing 4 people and injuring others. We are staying on top of this story. Again, ABC News Live will have the latest as soon as law enforcement give more information on the capture of that man. But let's switch right back to Toronto, where there's a breaking news scene there where a van has hit several pedestrians after it ran up onto a sidewalk. That is the scene right there in downtown Toronto. We're waiting to find out if there were fatalities, how many fatalities. We're waiting to get that update from police. We know when it comes to this incident, that terrorism comes to mind. So this is an investigation that's just starting. Again, breaking news in Toronto where a white van has hit several pedestrians there. Let's get now the latest from our ABC's Chief Justice Correspondent, Pierre Thomas, who's live in Washington. Pierre, what do we know?
Well, the situation is still unfolding. We believe 8 to 10 people injured in this incident. We don't know the motivation of the driver. We do know that he's in custody, so that's good news that law enforcement have this suspect in custody so that they can question this person, begin to look at this person's background, and perhaps determine a motive. Obviously, U.S. law enforcement officials are concerned and interested. We know the New York Police Department is monitoring the situation. We expect that federal law enforcement agencies are also trying to get additional information because of the recent spate of attacks we've seen around the world involving vehicles used as weapons. We've seen this in London. We've seen it in Paris. We've also seen it in New York City as well. So U.S. law enforcement officials now trying to get additional information to figure out exactly what took place in Toronto.
And Pierre, when it comes to these soft targets, you've covered so many of these. This is something we've seen this scene time and time again, as you mentioned.
Time and time again, obviously, people walking on the street, hard to protect them. Many cities have put up barriers to try to protect pedestrians, but again, there's still so many different ways to access pedestrians on the sidewalk. We understand in this case, believe that the suspect, the vehicle hit a fire hydrant of some sort and then was able to proceed onto the sidewalk and injure all those people.
All right, our thanks to our ABC News Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas. Thank you, Pierre. We're going to keep watch on that story in Toronto, but let's switch now back to Nashville, where we know that law enforcement are giving an update right now on the capture of that deadly mass shooting suspect. Take a listen.
How we were able to identify.
Mayor David Briley.
Good afternoon. First, I'd like to say thanks to the community, to the citizens of Nashville. A tip from the community is what led to the arrest today, and their being vigilant was really an important part of what happened today. I'd like to thank the Metropolitan Police Department and Chief Anderson for all their work over the last 36 hours. They've been relentless in searching for the shooter, and the conditions have been quite bad for the last 36 hours, so it was tough work, and I want to thank them personally on behalf of all of the citizens of Nashville for everything that they did. Yesterday was a horrible day for the city of Nashville. It brought home a real tragedy to this community. Today is a day where we can start to move on as a community, I hope, but I hope everybody will share a commitment that I have to help the families who lost their loved ones and who are still suffering in the hospital right now. We're going to have to gather around them and help lift them up over the coming weeks. Obviously, a tragedy, put an end to part of it today, and we need to move on as a community and do what we can to curb this violence in the future.
Chief Steve Anderson.
Certainly this apprehension was the result of teamwork throughout the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department. Almost all of our components were involved. The SWAT team, K9 flight, on and on. We had the majority of our detectives out here in undercover cars. And certainly it's a teamwork effort in terms of our support from our federal and state partners. Department of Homeland Safety and Homeland Security had a team of state troopers out here. The FBI had an enormous amount of resources. They had actually started several teams from Washington to assist us in this search. The ATF and the Secret Service likewise. And it's a community effort. This would not have been accomplished without the cooperation of the community, and it was the citizens' tip that led to this apprehension. And the businesses that have supported us bringing food out here to feed the officers who were out there in the rain, the cold, and the dark. So I applaud everybody that's been involved. And again, it was a team effort that made this possible.
Lieutenant, Mr. Gavin or Commissioner Perkey, Matt. Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Matt Espenshade from the FBI. Spell that.
Espenshade. I'd just like to thank all the entities involved for this. It was great teamwork and coming together. I'm glad we came to a quick resolution. I'd just like to thank the community as well, because there's a challenge that we still have in front of us, and that is to not forget the victims We take very seriously our victim witness services, so those will really come into effect at this point, providing counseling services to those who were hurt and to the families who live on. So thank you for your time.
David Perkey, Commissioner of Safety and Homeland Security for the state of Tennessee. I was telling the chief just before we walked up here, justice is relentless when it involves the partnerships that we have on the federal, state, and local level, especially when it's working with the citizens. And as a former mayor myself for many years, I understand what it takes for justice to prevail, and you have seen that happen today. So congratulations to all of our partners. The Department of Safety and Homeland Security was glad to be one of those. But this is a good day. Thank you.
Special Agent in charge from the ATF.
Good afternoon. Yesterday was a very tragic day in this community. Our law enforcement partners came together. We were determined to be relentless to bring this young man to justice. We worked very well together, and today is a day that we can begin to heal as a community. Thank you for your support.
Questions, please say who you want to ask the question of.
Mark Strassman, CBS News. Lieutenant Fink, grab me a second. Let's go back to the moment of capture if we can for a second. So, what was his demeanor? Did he have anything to say? Was he just arrested?
I was actually not at the location. I was getting information relayed. There was a little bit of miscommunication at one point, but from what I understand, as soon as the detective saw him, there was really no communication other than, you know, the detective drawing down on him, and he got on the ground and proned out and was taken into custody.
Did not try to resist?
Not at all, not that I know, sir.
Did he make any statement, Lieutenant?
Not that I know, sir.
Did he show any remorse?
At this point, I wasn't there, so I can't say, but I have not received any news that, or any word that he made any statements at all.
That location's about 2 miles away from here, would you say? Do you have any idea how he spent the last 36 hours? Was it in those woods?
Again, a lot of that information is information I can't answer because we don't know. We believe that he's possibly stayed in that same area, but again, 5,000 Mountain Springs is not far from here. It's behind where he lived, so who knows? We won't know until the investigation continues.
He was clearly able to get some material, was he not? He was able to get the backpack. He was able to get his gun. He was able to get his shirt.
Yes, when he was caught, he did have a maroon shirt, dark jeans, and a black backpack with, again, a silver Kimbrough semi-automatic weapon, flashlight, a holster, and some .45 cal ammunition, and that's all we have at this point.
Now, originally there was 2 guns that were reported missing. One of them was found on him. Where was that 4th gun?
I'm sorry.
So originally there were 2 guns that were reported missing yesterday. One of the guns you found on him. Where was that 4th gun located?
I have no idea where that 4th gun is located. I know that the silver Kimbrough, which was missing, was on his person. Any other weapons, I'm not the person who would have that information.
The .45 that was found in his backpack, loaded?
Yes, sir.
So a reminder of the continuing threat that he posed?
Yes, sir.
How much time passed from the call that came out from the community member of the construction site to when he was actually?
I would say as soon as the dispatcher, I wasn't sure if it was Megan Barr, Christy Simmons, contacted me directly by phone. We got the information, and then our detectives were actually assisting on another location that they were searching. We pulled them just due to the fact that this location was behind Cane Ridge Elementary School. We wanted to make sure that it was a priority. We pulled some of those detectives. 3 of our sergeants and all of our units went to that location, and at that point, I would say probably about 10 minutes tops between the time that we received it and the time that the guys were dispatched out there.
Ariel Russia from ABC News. Can you speak to the FBI?
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Sir, how concerned are you that Travis Reinking was able to slip through the cracks?
Are you stating from the time yesterday of the shooting until now, or?
How concerned are you that Travis Reinking has a past mental health history, and he also has had many run-ins with law enforcement, including the Secret Service? The FBI is aware of him. How concerned are you that he slipped through the cracks?
Okay. I can tell you from our perspective, after the incident at the White House and the assessment that happened in the Springfield office, that every federal resource was brought to bear and that we were able to effectively neutralize what we felt was the threat at the time by ensuring that he did not have the ability to purchase or own weapons, and that those weapons were taken.
How was he able to get that gun back?
That I would have to refer you to the Illinois State Police or the Sheriff's Office there in Illinois.
Should his father connection he might have had with sovereign citizen?
We are investigating all of the possibilities to any groups, but right now we have no information to provide on
Should
that.
his father have given him back those weapons?
I can't make that assessment. Obviously, it's a very tragic thing. He was not able to possess or own those weapons, so on its face, yes.
Has his father given a reason for why his weapons were given back?
I haven't heard that.
Are there any gun laws that the father may have violated by giving his son the weapons?
I would refer that over to ATF.
All right, Mr. ATF. So happens you're right there, man. I appreciate you being here. So is it possible that his father could be subject to gun laws? Could his father have violated gun laws by giving his son the weapons?
It is possible if you transfer weapons knowingly to a person that is prohibited, so that could potentially be a violation of federal law.
As far as you know, for your agency, has the father told you, or do you know why, the stated reason for giving him back?
I can't speak to that at this point.
Is he under investigation?
All federal departments are looking at him for any potential violations of federal firearm laws or obviously the homicide he committed.
He could face charges.
He potentially could.
But Ryan King, was he supposed to have guns here in Tennessee? State law is obviously different, but even though his guns were taken away in Illinois, should he have had weapons in Tennessee?
He should not have had weapons, correct.
In Tennessee?
In Tennessee.
So he was legally stripped of his ability to purchase or possess weapons?
Well, that actually goes back to the FBI. They control the NICS system, not ATL.
Okay.
Lieutenant Laura, if I could ask you a question.
Lieutenant who? Laura?
Lieutenant Laura.
Yes, sir.
Can you give us an idea of how this man was able to survive and escape your dragnet? What do you think that he was able to do to avoid?
I have to say that I don't know. We don't have that information. I wasn't involved in a lot of the planning and a lot of the search. I had a specific job, and Art and Unit had a specific job, so there's a lot of things that we have to take into account that I don't know of. So all I know is that when we caught him, he was at 5,000 Mountain Springs in that area. There's a good chance he'd been there for since this occurred, but that's information I just can't give you.
Did you get a chance to look at him? What did he look like? What was his physical condition, sir?
I was not able to be over there, but he looked like, again, he looked like he was tired from what I was told.
What did he give up?
Have you all searched that area before? Have you all searched that area before?
That specific area in those woods, I don't believe, at least during the time that I was working and our guys were there, we didn't check that area that I know of. I know that today was the first time we actually had that call to that wooded area behind that construction site behind 5,000 Mountain Springs.
That's where he lives, right?
Is there anything else that you're looking for? Any, like for that fourth phantom gun or anything else that you guys are looking for?
You'd probably want to refer to the other investigators involved. That's something that I wasn't involved in. So.
You said that you didn't necessarily canvass the area where he was apprehended, but that is the area right behind his apartment complex. That gives some concern to the residents there.
I did not personally. I know that there was several other units that were involved. I was not personally, and none of my unit was involved in that canvassing that I know of. I know that there was several units and agencies that were involved assisting. Absolutely. I know that at one point we were hearing that just about every apartment complex out here was doors being knocked on and areas were being searched. But I know that, again, that area, when this tip came in, as soon as it came in, we responded to make sure that we were able to verify if the tip was accurate or not.
Are you confident that he was acting alone?
I don't have that information. Again, that's something you're going to have to refer to somebody else.
Did he run from them, Lieutenant? When they came upon him there in the woods, how far back was he? Did he try running? Did they chase him?
From what I was told from the detectives that apprehended him, he did not try to run. As soon as the detective saw him, he pulled out his weapon and told him to get on the ground. And immediately, from what I understand, he got on the ground, proned out. Other detectives went, helped cuff him, search him. They found in his back pocket his ID, and then they cut off his backpack and found the weapon in there.
Can we speak to gentlemen from the FBI?
Over there right now. We have a crew.
Last
over
question.
We have a crew over where he was captured right at this moment, and it appears that law enforcement is pulling out bags of evidence. Can you talk about it all? What they have gathered so far?
I personally don't know. That may be something you want to refer to Mr. Aaron.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when the article searches are done. in the woods. Let me say that this area, as you all know, was the subject of extensive searching yesterday. That's where the last sighting was, around 8:30 Sunday morning. There were police dogs, there were officers. That area was widely searched on yesterday. How long he'd been there, where, the report from the citizen initially yesterday was he was shirtless. Today he's wearing a red shirt. So we have a myriad of questions for him, but as I said at the beginning, he, when he arrived at the South Precinct, asked for a lawyer and refused to answer any questions.
Sir,
Thank you all.